Alright, motherfuckers. Let's do that Raw review one time because we haven't done it in a while. You know what I'm saying? Um, yeah, this Raw was what it was. I mean, let's just go through it and we'll talk about every match and most segments. You know what I'm saying? And see if anything good appeared. Spoiler alert, not really. You know what I'm saying? First up, we had Keith Lee versus that jobber Dolph Ziggler. The whole night was based around a triple threat match that I thought was going to lead into a four-way title match or something like that at whatever Clash of Champions. But basically, there was three singles matches, and the three winners would go and fight each other. To see who was going to be the number one contender. You understand me? So first up, we had Keith Lee versus Dolph Ziggler. You already know what was going to happen here, right? Like obviously. Keith Lee's gonna win. Dolph Ziggler hasn't won a meaningful match in like about 3 or 4 years. So Keith Lee wins, hits the Spirit Bomb. Before this match, Randy Orton came out just to say like, I'm Randy Orton. Look at me, I'm Randy Orton. That kind of stuff, right? Keith Lee came out, and once again, I mean, now that I noticed it, I can't forget it. Keith Lee, the way he talks, it was so boring. He's just so boring, man. Like I like Keith Lee. He's got cool moves. Don't get me wrong, you know what I'm saying? I haven't given up on Keith Lee just yet. But let's be real. This guy is so dry. He's just a boring human being, He starts talking and it honestly felt like forever. I started looking at my phone. Before I knew it, he's interrupted by Dolph Ziggler who attacks him. And I honestly thought to myself, thank God someone interrupted Keith Lee because this was not working. He should not talk. It's not that he's a bad talker. It's just his tone and the pace at which he speaks is so bad. And he has this deliberate and slow way of speaking. You know what I mean? It's so goofy. Like, I'm starting to dislike this guy. So I'll leave it at that for now, right? Next up, we have an interview with the women tag team champs. They do their shtick of like, oh, we don't really like each other. Asuka interrupts. And then Shayna Baszler is like, yo, this is our interview, fam. Like, what are you doing, Asuka pushes her for no reason, even though, like, Shayna Baszler is totally justified in being like, yo, this is kind of our spot. Like, why are you even here? As a matter of fact, the interviewer just turns around and starts asking questions for Asuka. I'm just like, dude, that's not your job. Like, you're conducting an interview, But it was what it was. It gave a little bit of personality to the tag team champions. Not that there's anything, noteworthy there, but it is what it is. Then we have that idiot from The Bachelor, Demi Burnett. Now, a lot of you might not know this, motherfuckers, but the hater enjoys watching The Bachelor once in a while. So I am familiar with Demi Burnett. And on The Bachelor, she was just this annoying tramp, and hasn't really converted here, but she's just an annoying human being. I don't like her at all. And I don't understand why she's even here. Like she's obviously getting paid for this. It's a waste of time. You could have just replaced her with, not Charlie Caruso, but maybe Charlie Caruso, her and Andrade had like a little flirtation going, so that would have been much better, I thought. She comes out there, and Angel Garza wants to give her a rose still. Like, people forget that this guy, like, when he won the Cruiserweight title in NXT, he proposed to his girlfriend and said all these great things about her. It's a little disrespectful, in my opinion, but c'est la vie, motherfucker, c'est la vie. Next up, we had Mickie James versus Lana. Another predictable match. Obviously, Mickie James is going to win. Lana has never won a match, I don't think, ever in her career as a wrestler. So Mickie James wins with the mid kick. Kind of a useless match. I guess it's going to, influence like who's going to challenge Asuka. But whatever. No one really cared about this matchup. We already know Mickie James isn't going to be a champion right now. She needs like a push, if anything. And she's not that old, to be honest. But it's like they present her as old. That's the problem. I think she's like a year or two younger than Asuka. Older than Asuka. If that. They're like around the same age, right? But whereas Asuka is presented as like being the best woman to ever grace WWE at times, right? Mickie James is just presented as like a has-been, which is weird. Like, I understand that, like, she found her success when she was young because she was actually good. But, doesn't mean that you have to present her as an old bag. She's not an old bag. And also, she looks great. So there you go, motherfucks. Next up, Randy Orton is shown, like, talking to Aleister Black, like, in his locker room, in his dressing room or whatever. Owens versus Randy Orton. So did I say Owens was talking to him? Randy Orton was talking to him. Motherfucks. The match starts. It doesn't start. Kevin Owens is walking to the ring. He gets attacked by Aleister Black, right? And in a pathetic attempt for the writers or for Aleister Black or for even Vince, if he's involved, to just give life to the Aleister Black character, which has been a colossal failure on the main roster. I predicted these things. I predict these things, motherfuckers. I told everyone, I was like, man, Aleister Black, this guy has going nowhere written all over him. You know what I mean? Like, he's not better than Bobby Roode. Keith Lee's not better than Bobby Roode. And Bobby Roode went nowhere. So you have to be really exceptional to go from NXT and become someone relevant in the main roster. Like, almost everyone that's come from NXT has become a jobber. And part of that is because there's just too many spots that are already filled with people like Rollins, Orton, even Kevin Owens to a degree. Like, Kevin Owens is one of the successful ones. Can you believe that? You know what I mean? Like, we have all these people. Baron Corbin's one of the successful ones. People like Elias. Oh, whatever happened to Elias? I don't even, who cares, you know? Nonetheless, let's move on, right? Aleister Black is now healed. Literally not one person cares about this, but it was what happened, and that's why I'm here, motherfuckers. So anyways, then the Hurt Business come out, just Shelton and MVP, and they called out Lashley. Lashley comes out. They're celebrating, essentially. MVP is great on the mic. He gives Lashley the mic. Lashley cuts a pretty good promo. You know, it is a mortal sin that Lashley is U.S. champion. Lashley should be the world champion. Lashley should be fighting against Drew McIntyre now that he has a stable, and he should be world champion. Lashley has everything you need from a wrestler. I don't understand why Lashley is like wrestling Apollo Crews. You know what I mean? But at least he beat Apollo Crews. The storyline here seems to be that they're going to try to recruit Apollo Crews. This leads to a 6-man match. Hurt Business versus Apollo and the Viking Raiders. Now, here's the problem with this. Apollo Crews kind of goads them to come outside, or they come outside to confront him, and they get attacked from behind by the Viking Raiders. Now, this kind of changed the perspective of things a little bit, don't you think, motherfuckers, man? Like, the whole point is that people, one of them being Cedric Alexander, don't want to join the Hurt Business, presumably because they're heels, right? Because they have no ethics, because they're bad guys, right? But then him and the Viking Raiders behave like bad guys. And the people that behave like good guys were the Hurt Business, you know? They, like, at least during this segment, you know, they didn't attack Cedric Alexander after he pinned MVP with a roll-up, you know? MVP were, like, held them back. He smiled, you know, he's like, I know that he's obviously a heel and he's being conniving, but in the way that the kayfabe of it was presented, you would think that the Hurt Business was the faces and the other guys were the heels. Nonetheless, as I said, Cedric Alexander pins MVP. I don't like the fact that MVP just keeps getting pinned, but they more than made up for it afterwards, right? After commercial break, the Hurt Business is beating up Apollo and his two friends. They're beating up Cedric Alexander. Ricochet and Apollo come out, but they don't fight the Hurt Business. They just kind of check up on Cedric, but they're not willing to fight for him. You know what I'm saying? And I'm sure that's gonna come up when Cedric joins the Hurt Business, which I think should involve him and also Apollo Crews. This should be a big stable because it's awesome. So anyways, next up we had Rollins versus Dominic. Before the match, Rollins tells Buddy Murphy to beat it because he cost him the match. And I have to agree. Buddy Murphy has been underwhelming. You know what I'm saying? This whole, like, disciple thing, he just feels like a jobber. No matter what they do with Buddy Murphy, this guy will always feel like a jobber because he is a jobber. No one cares. Oh, you can put on 5-star matches. No one cares. He's not interesting. He's not captivating. Even as a lackey, he's lackluster. Do you understand what I'm saying? So this guy has no business even being near Seth Rollins. The match with Dominic was pretty good. The critique that I have of it is that, like every other match that involves a wrestler with a top rope finish, the match ended when Dominic missed his finish, which was it's like the 619 and then the frog splash. He missed the frog splash. Rollins stomped him. I mean, what's the point? Why would I care about Dominic versus any other wrestler like Adrian Neville back in the day, Evan Bourne, all these guys? All their matches are just them doing some bullshit, going for their finisher, and if they hit it, they win. If they miss it, they take a finisher and they lose, like almost always, right? So there's really nothing there. Also, it's kind of weird that Dominic Mysterio was out there just fighting for like such a prestigious match, like to potentially become number one contender. Like he's a new guy. You know what I'm saying? Like his involvement in Raw can only be justified by the fact that he's in this storyline with Seth Rollins and his father, right? Otherwise, it would be just strange. You know, why is this guy worthy of a title shot? To be fair, he was taking Rey Mysterio's spot, so I get it. But at the same time, it's like, come on now, you know, give this guy something, like have a feud with someone. I mean, perhaps after this, have him have a feud with, like, I don't know, Nakamura, and put him on SmackDown. I don't know, figure something out, motherfuckers. So anyways, Next up, we had the Street Profits versus Garza and Andrade. This was mercifully interrupted by Retribution, who attack everyone. Garza takes Demi and they run away, right? The three women from Retribution, I'm pretty sure one of them is Mia Yim. You know what I'm saying? She looks just like Mia Yim because like her mask was a little moved too, and she had the same like nose to eye appearance of Mia Yim. So I don't know what to say about that, but that's just goofy. You know what I'm saying? I'm hearing some spoilers that it's going to be like Dominic Dijakovic and Dio Madden. You know, you would have to have at least one person in this group who at least is behind the scenes or someone who's important. Because if it's a bunch of jobbers from NXT, then why am I supposed to be afraid of them? Like the NXT champions, Bobby Roode and like Aleister Black are jobbers. So why the hell would I be afraid of Dominic Dijakovic, who lost to like everyone? You know what I'm saying? Who lost to Keith Lee? This guy's like probably the least visible NXT superstar of all time. Like, he's been there in 4 matches, lost 3 of them against Keith Lee. That's all he's done. He hasn't done anything else. You know what I'm saying? So, I really hope they do something with Retribution. But to be honest, I'm kind of losing interest because it's like if you see the same thing again and again and again, like them just attacking people for like a month and a half now, you know, like I don't care. Like, what's the payoff? Someone's gonna take their mask off like at some point. You know, why are you holding off on it? Just do it. Like, it's not gonna be a good thing. They're not gonna get like a huge pop or anything. You know, it's gonna be just completely like irrelevant. You know, just have them start putting them in matches at least, make it interesting. You know. So nonetheless, that happened, and then we had Raw Underground. First up, we had some jabron like Avery Thomas or some girl that no one ever heard of. It was her versus Jessamine Puke. Jessamine Puke is just horrible. I looked up her MMA record. She's like 3-8 or 3-6 or something, like whatever she is. But I don't know. But she has a losing record, right? And I'm like, you know, I'm tired of these girls like going to the gym for like 2 years, right? Learning a few leg locks, right? Fighting some other girl who's been in the gym for 1.5 years, beating them, then fighting like a girl that's been there for 2 years and a day and losing to them, being completely failed MMA people, right? And then coming here as if they're like these bad bitches. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm supposed to be afraid of Jessamine Duke and Marina Shafir. Like, why the hell would Nia Jax be afraid of these broads? You know, like honestly, in a real fight, who do you think would win? You know, enough of this fantasy stuff. Like, it's like, oh, Ronda Rousey would beat Triple H. No, she wouldn't. Trust me, motherfuckers. Trust me. There's a difference in strength, and speed, and just weight, leverage, all these other things. You know, like it's just goofy to see these women come here and just like throw everyone around. Like, at least Shayna Baszler was like kind of big. You know what I'm saying? And she was like in the UFC. I mean, you know, they always say I was the top 10 like woman. Yeah, you were top 10 when there was like 10 women. You were the worst one, but because there were only 10, you were number 10. You know what I'm saying? Nobody cared. So there you go. That happened. No one really cared. It wasn't very interesting. But then we had Shelton Benjamin versus Apollo Crews in Raw Underground. I'm not gonna say this was good because Apollo Crews all of a sudden knows a Kimura, puts a Kimura on Benjamin. Benjamin just throws him outside along with himself. This leads to like a 6-man brawl, right? And Hurt Business beat up the good guys, right? It was great. It was great because in no universe would any one of these 3 guys beat up anyone in the Hurt Business. They might have a chance against MVP because he's old and doesn't really have like an actual like wrestling or MMA background, like a real one. Not like MMA, like MVP started capoeira. No one cares about that. I'm talking about real fighting, you know what I'm saying? But Shelton Benjamin and Bobby Lashley are legit fighters, right? They're legit wrestlers. Bobby Lashley is an actual MMA superstar. Like his record is like a positive record, you know what I mean? He should be out there destroying everyone on Raw Underground like 10-on-1, you know what I mean? But also something else that's important. Lashley, MVP, and Shelton Benjamin, something that's subtle about the Hurt Business is that they're all men. They're not like these 28-year-old boys. They're like real men. You know, they're like in their 40s. They're like legit dudes. You know what I'm saying? Like they come off as tougher and stronger looking because they're older, in my opinion. So I'm glad to see that they beat the shit out of them soundly. You know what I'm saying? There was no doubt there. It was like, yo, we just beat them all, and there's no doubt about it. You know. So hopefully this just kind of ends this feud, or at least torpedoes. What's it called? Cedric Alexander's joining the Hurt Business, which is the only way for him to go because he's been a nobody his entire career. And he's not horrible in the ring. I mean, like, he has no personality, but that's why stables are good in wrestling, because stables are exactly there for that purpose. It's, you don't have a personality, you can go in a stable, right? And the stable becomes your personality, right? Like DX. Anyone could theoretically join DX. Now, it just so happened that everyone that joined DX was cool. But you could have put a jobber in there. Like, if you put Dean Malenko in DX Okay, that wouldn't really work, but you know what I'm saying, right? Like the stable will give you a personality, right? Cedric Alexander has no personality. When he was going against MVP on the mic, he had like one line and he botched the line completely, and then he started coming off as this like nerd, you know. It's just like he's like, well, MVP, you know, he was one of those jerk offs, right? MVP's like a serious man. MVP should just kick this guy in the head and that should be it. But it is what it is, you know. Hopefully he just kind of like grows up a little bit when he joins this group, if he does. Next up, they show in backstage, they show Angel Garza and that jackass Debbie Burnett, and they're talking about like how Angel Garza abandoned his friends, right? And then like he's like, no, Demi. He's like, they're like trained fighters. They don't need me, you know. And then Debbie Burnett, because she doesn't care at all about wrestling, and because her being there is just a waste of time and money, she, instead of saying retribution, she calls it like regeneration, which is not even a word. She's like, oh, regeneration came out there. What the hell's regeneration? But fuck it, let's go with regeneration. You know what I'm saying? From now on, retribution will just be called regeneration, motherfuckers. Regeneration. Then regeneration comes out, right? And they like, right before they come out, Angel Garza is like, yo, I would never like abandon you, Demi. You're all I care about. I want you to be safe. Regeneration comes out. The three women, one of them is clearly Mia Yim again. Like now her mask is even more disheveled. It's like you might as well not even wear a mask. It's like a Robin from Batman. You know, it's like it's clearly Dick Grayson or Tim Drake or whoever the hell it is now. You know what I'm saying? Like it's clearly them. Like it's not even like a question, right? Or Superman. She comes out with basically no mask, and then like Angel Garza runs away and like abandoning Demi Burnett. Demi Burnett eventually runs away too. Who the hell cares? Next. And finally, we have the triple threat to determine the number one contender. This match was all right. I really thought it was going to be some sort of screwy finish. Maybe Retribution comes out and this leads to like a four-way match or something, because that would be a little bit of a change in pace, you know? But what happens is this. The match keeps going on. Keith Lee hits a spirit bomb on Seth Rollins, and he's going to go for the pin, obviously. But Randy Orton's behind him, turns around, RKO, Randy Orton wins. He pins Seth Rollins. He wins. Randy Orton is the number one contender. Now, the only thing I have an issue here, like with this match, is for some reason they protected Keith Lee. Like Keith Lee didn't take the pin, even though he took the RKO. He didn't take the pin, right? Number one. Two, this comes off after Randy Orton losing to Keith Lee. So what the hell is that all about? You know what I'm saying? Like come on. Like Keith Lee is still presented as stronger than Randy Orton, who's the number one contender. You know, but it was what it was. I wouldn't say it was a completely horrible episode of Raw, but come on. I mean, in my opinion, it wasn't very good, but I see like at least it had some matches, and there was like a lot of matches meant something, you know. But it was all very predictable. You know what I mean? Like all the matches that were matches were very predictable. The only thing that wasn't predictable, arguably, is Hurt Business and versus the other three guys in the six-man match. But that's like such a throwaway match that no one cares, you know. So the predictability has really gotten to Monday Night Raw, to wrestling in general. But I mean, we'll see where it goes. Like they just had a pay-per-view, so I didn't expect too much. This Raw wasn't that good, but still better than what AEW is gonna put out there. I mean, like, what the hell is that about? You know what I'm saying? Jesus Christ, AEW stinks. But here nor there, we're gonna talk about that this Wednesday, motherfuckers. This Wednesday, or is it Thursday? Whenever they show it, I don't know. I'll have to see when my DVR gets it, you know what I'm saying? So, yeah, there we go. That's what happened today. I will say this, though. This is very important. I thought about this throughout the show, like at different intervals. I kept thinking to myself, yo, Vince McMahon really is awesome. And here's why, right? Because I mentioned in my last video, or one of my two last videos that I did today, I mentioned that Keith Lee, his entire, like, character is being, like, changed a little bit, right? Like, Vince McMahon sees what NXT gives him. They're like, here it is. This is Keith Lee. Vince is like, all right, here's probably how Vince thought of this. He's like, all right, he's fat, so put clothes on him, right? All right, his entrance is bask in his glory. So get rid of that, right? Give him some generic shit until we find something better. You know, they completely changed that. They're like, all right, here is how we're going to present him in the real show, you know? And the same thing happened to people like Viking Raiders, right? Like Viking Raiders were, like the War Raiders? War Machine. They were War Machine first, right? War Machine. And then, like, they were over in the Indies just because, like, they're intense and they're two big, strong guys, right? So, of course, you're going to be over in the Indies where everyone's a jobber, right? But then, like, in NXT, they were the War Raiders. They got over there, too, because the overlap of the Indies and NXT crowds is, like, almost 100%. Not almost. It's 100%, right? Then they were moved to Raw, and people got really mad, including myself. Like, not mad, like, definitely people got mad. I didn't really get mad, but I was like, that's kind of whack that they're changing. Like, Hanson and Rowe are now like, Eric and Ivar, right? But if you really, really think about it, right, Hanson and Rowe have a very Gallows and Anderson vibe to them, right? They're just supposed to be these two, like, tough guys, right? These two tough guys that, like, are just, balls to the wall, like, they'll beat you up, right? That's, like, their thing, right? And that's all fun and good. But that just screams jobber. That just screams AOP. You know what I'm saying? You need characters. You need something, right? Vince McMahon is not going to sit there and be like, all right, we're going to come up with the best character for these guys, right? That's not going to happen, right? The fact of the matter is this. You come to the company, you come to WWE with no character, with no gimmick. You're just, the war machine. Like, what does that mean? Post-apocalyptic raiders. That's stupid. You know what I'm saying? Like, we're not in a post-apocalyptic time. You know what I mean? You have to actually be good, right? Like for example, LOD, Legion of Doom, motherfucks, Hawk and Animal, remember them, right? The Road Warriors. They kind of had a similar shtick where they're supposed to be like these, post-apocalyptic type guys, like Mad Max style, right? But that's not why they were over. They weren't over because of that. They were over because they were just these two big guys who were awesome, you know what I'm saying? And who would beat your ass. Like, they were just like, they were kind of like the APA, except like bigger and more intimidating, So that's why they got over. Eric and Ivar, Hanson and Rowe, motherfuckers, just really don't have that look. Like, they're just kind of sloppy dudes. Like, I mean, I think, for example, that Raymond Rowe, whichever one he is, I think he's Eric, right? Like, he looks like an intimidating guy. He looks like a prison Nazi. I wouldn't want to mess with that guy, right? But he's got all those tattoos and everything. But let's be real. Like, he's not intimidating to the point of like he's like JBL intimidating, but he's not like Animal or Hawk intimidating. Absolutely not. It's a different level. You know what I mean? So Vince McMahon's probably thinking, or whoever's in charge of creative is thinking. I guess it's Vince. They're like, all right, we need to take these two big guys and give them something to hang their hat on, right? It's like let's make them Vikings because that's better than nothing, right? That's the standard. The standard now is, what can we do to make this nothing of a wrestler better than nothing, right? And it's the same thing. I'm not saying they're bad wrestlers. I'm not saying Keith Lee is bad either. But it's like, you see Keith Lee and you're like, all right, what would I change about this guy? First of all, I'd try to hide as much as I can the fact that he's obese. You know what I'm saying? I would try to hide this because that's not marketable, right? Someone in my comments said, he's like, fat people aren't intimidating because they're funny looking, right? And it actually made me laugh because I'm like, oh, that's actually a good point. You know what I'm saying? So, like, at least to a degree, because there are fat people that obviously, like Kevin Owens, for example, when he first started, he's obviously intimidating. Like, he looks like a guy that would fight you. You know what I mean? But he doesn't look like a guy that you should be afraid of. You know what I'm saying? Samoa Joe, same thing. It's like, dude, like, why would you be afraid of this guy? Like, yeah, he could beat my ass, but it's like, why would I be afraid of him? Like, he's not Brock Lesnar. He's not Batista. So that's kind of the thing. Vince McMahon's like, all right, we see what you did here in NXT, which is absolutely nothing. Like that's what people don't understand about NXT. NXT, like, all they do is like, all right, go have a great match. There's absolutely no character, no nothing. They're like, here it is. Here's Keith Lee. Here's Dominik Dijakovic, right? How are they any different? They're not. Just one of them wins and the other one loses. That's the only difference. Like, their character is the same, right? So Vince is like, all right, this guy has absolutely no character. He's just that guy with tights. But we can make him a bit better by covering up his gut and giving him like a music that's like a theme song that's not cringy, right? That's all Vince does, And people are like, oh, he ruined it. What do you mean he ruined it? Like, oh, he ruined the War Raiders. What is it? Like, what is there to ruin? Like, it's not like these guys have something great going, And Vince was like, no, you have something great going on here, but I'm gonna change it for the worst. You know what I'm saying? How come he doesn't ruin people like Cesaro or Rollins or AJ Styles, right? Now, you can argue that Cesaro hasn't gotten the push that he may or may not deserve, but that's neither here nor there, right? Cesaro has the best moves probably out of all the wrestlers, right? Vince McMahon didn't ban any of his moves. And if he did, Cesaro came up with new awesome moves that always get pops, like the swing, you know what I'm saying? The Swiss 1-9. Well, Cesaro's just like a highlight reel, right? So it always seems like, but his character was not tampered with at all because he was generic Jabron, and now he's generic Jabron. So like nothing has changed, Oh, he ruined Hideo Itami. How did he ruin him? Man? Hideo Itami got every opportunity, right? None of these people were ruined. The fact of the matter is they're just not good enough. Vince tries his hardest to make these people appealing to the mass consumer, right? The reality is that a Japanese guy who's 5'7" and 175 pounds, right, and still somehow skinny fat, right? The facts are what they are. This guy will never get over. He doesn't even speak English. So why would people like him? Why would they like him more than they like Taka Michinoku? And actually, they would like him way less because Taka Michinoku at least was entertaining. You know what I mean? So this guy has like zero entertainment factor, zero charisma, doesn't speak English. His moves have already been stolen by other wrestlers. He's small and fat, right? So what can Vince do about that? Of course he's not going to get over. Of course he won't get over. This would be the equivalent of taking like, let's see, let me think of someone very generic and boring. Like, all right, on NXT, there's those two guys, Ever-Rise. Take one of those Ever-Rise guys, send him to New Japan, and demand that he be booked against Okada, right? Of course not. They're going to be, who the hell is this guy? He's a jobber. I don't need him. You know, I have better wrestlers here, right? So that's kind of like the level of appeal that a Hideo Itami or even a Nakamura will have, you know? Like telling people that Nakamura is charismatic will only get you so far. Because eventually people are going to be like, this guy's not charismatic. He's just a weird guy who makes weird faces and does this weird hand gesture, right? They're going to be like, where's his charisma? What is it? He has 3 moves. 2 of them are running knees. You know what I mean? What's so special about Nakamura? Oh, he comes out with like a nice theme song that you can chant along to. Oh, he's the artist. Why is he the artist? What art has this guy made? What the hell are you talking about? You know? So people are going to eventually revolt. They're going to be like, yo, I'm not interested in Nakamura anymore. And the counter argument is this: if people cared about Nakamura, right, or people like Nakamura, when they become jobbers or mid-carders, the people would revolt like they did with Daniel Bryan, right? Which I don't understand. For the life of me, I don't get it. But people seem to like Daniel Bryan. They actually protested, or even Kofi Kingston. The people were behind it. They were like, all right, like WWE wants us to like cheer for Kofi Kingston, but we're really going to do it. We're going to go full on, right? Of course, they were manipulated by Vince McMahon, but they fell for it at least, right? Vince McMahon tried to manipulate them for Nakamura, and no one cared. They're just like, oh, we like AJ Styles more, though. You know, what are we going to do about that, right? Because AJ Styles at least is more entertaining. He has better moves. He does actual moves. He can speak English, and is decent on the mic now, right? He was booked well. He has good mannerisms and facial expressions. He never botches, right? Like, the Styles Clash looks the same every single time. The Kinshasa looks different every time, to the point where sometimes the announcers are like, oh, Nakamura with a running knee, because they're afraid to call the Kinshasa because they don't know if it was meant to be used as a finisher or not. Do you understand what I'm saying? It's so vague that they're like, oh, if the guy kicks out of 2, that undersells the finisher, but maybe he didn't mean it as a finisher because all his moves look the same. Or like Kofi Kingston. You watch 10 minutes of Kofi Kingston wrestling, you'll find 20 botches. Like 20 botches, no joke. Like, you know that thing he does when the guy's like leaning on the turnbuckle and he does like a Bronco Buster on the guy's face? Like he just jumps and clears like the ropes and then mounts the guy, right? In like a Hurricane Rana mount and just punches him and then goes back. Like every time he botches that move. Like one leg is always lower than the other, and the wrestler that's taking the move has to pull Kofi's leg up. Like he's a liability, you know what I'm saying? And people are like, yo, like at a certain point, I have to say, like this guy, all right, you know, we were behind his push, but eventually it's like, all right, we've lost favor for him, you know? He's not inherently entertaining, right? He's not like a Stone Cold or like a Rock or Triple H, where people are continuously going to be interested in what Stone Cold and Triple H do, or what The Rock does, or even what Mick Foley does, right? They're going to be interested in this because it's interesting, right? That's the problem. Vince McMahon can only take you so far. At a certain point, you have to stand out. And if you're going to sit here and tell me that people like Keith Lee, I mean like Nakamura, even Bobby Roode, who I like, that these people stand out, you're just lying to yourself. Keith Lee stands out in NXT because the average height of NXT is 5'5", and Keith Lee is like 6'3". That's why he stands out. But he's nothing special. You know what I'm saying? He's nothing special. And I like him. I think Keith Lee would make a very good, let's see who else we can compare him to. He would make a very good, like a little bit better Vladimir Kozlov. Like that's where his career was taking him. You know, Vladimir Kozlov beat Undertaker clean. But then eventually he started teaming up with Santino. So that's what I predict for Keith Lee. I don't predict, you know, main eventing WrestleMania. I predict like him being the next like Ezekiel Jackson, Vladimir Kozlov, like that guy. That's where he's gonna end up. You know what I'm saying? He's gonna win and lose, win and lose, win and lose. Eventually win like the Intercontinental title or something, and that's gonna be it. Like I would rather put my eggs in like the Big E basket or perhaps the Baron Corbin basket. Like there are better people out there, right, on SmackDown and on Raw, in my opinion, than Keith Lee or these other jabrones, right? And furthermore, how can we justify like the long-term storytelling of this whole Keith Lee push, right? First of all, he lost clean to Karrion Kross, who through no fault of his own, I can't really hold this against Karrion Kross, but he's injured. You know what I'm saying? He's injured. So this is a whole like, oh, I'm injured. Like he comes out with this like elaborate and like quote unquote scary entrance, and he has his arm in a sling. And I'm thinking to myself, well, how come someone doesn't come out here like Ciampa, who just turned heel? Why don't you Ciampa just come out and just beat him while he's weak, right? Some heel who's like, yo, you ain't shit, you're injured, you're weak. I'm gonna beat you while you're weak. Why does someone do that, right? Because it makes no sense, right? This guy's been quote unquote terrorizing everyone. Why doesn't someone just come out and beat him? Like, you know what? I'm tired of you, man. All you do is come out here with like stupid entrance with like a bird flying in, right? And you come out with a sling in your arm. Now, I will say, I didn't talk about this, but I will say that the little promo that Karrion Kross cut was all right. You know what I'm saying? Like, I can't hate the kid for no reason, right? The promo was all right. Now, it wasn't anything special. He was like, I'm hurt. Oh, it's a setback. I'll be back. And everyone, watch out. Like, what do you mean, watch out? You came back. You're injured. You know, like, why am I supposed to be afraid of you? Like, you're injured. You know, that never happened back in the day. Back in the day, if someone got injured, it was either like Triple H would have to like lose half his leg, you know what I'm saying, in a match, and then it would be this big deal, right? And he would come back better than ever, you know? So it's like, that's what I'm saying. So Keith Lee lost to the guy who got injured in the match, right? And now the NXT title is vacant. Apparently, neither Keith Lee nor, I mean, I guess Karrion Kross wants the title, but he can't have it. Keith Lee has no interest in going after the title again. He's moving on to bigger and better things, which completely buries NXT as a brand, right? Because Keith Lee's argument would be like, well, okay, he beat me clean, right? But I injured him. You know what I'm saying? So, like, who should be champion? Like, the guy who was the former champion and injured the current champion should at least have a title shot, et cetera, right? And that's the problem. The problem is instead, he moves to Raw, where he's going to flounder. He's going to flounder, man. He's not going to do great things in Raw, just like he didn't really do anything great in NXT. He's like one of the shortest reigning NXT champs for a reason, right? Because it's like, all right, where do we go from here? Where can we go with Keith Lee? Like, we've seen his moves. We've seen his matches. That's it. There's nothing more this guy can do, you know? Now they're thinking like, all right, we invested something in him. Let's put him in the main roster, see how he pans out, and we'll see. At the end of the day, I hate to say it because it sounds like I'm contradicting myself, right? Wrestling is obviously a big man's game, but it is a specific type of big man, right? Like, the biggest stars ever, except for Hulk Hogan, the biggest stars ever have all been, I don't want to say average height, but like wrestling-wise, average height. You know what I'm saying? Like The Rock, Stone Cold, these guys, they're not the size of like Hulk Hogan, they're not the size of Kane, they're not the size of Big Show or Undertaker, right? The biggest stars, aside from Hulk Hogan, and maybe Undertaker if you want to put him in there, but I honestly really wouldn't, like as a top 5 guy, right? So the biggest stars have all been around that body type, like the Triple H, John Cena body type, right? And it's like you need to have that body type so that you are versatile, right? Because Keith Lee against Rey Mysterio is just foolish. Again, this is no fault of Keith Lee. This is actually a great thing. The other way to answer this question would be don't hire people like Rey Mysterio. Except the problem is that most men fall into that like 5'8", 6'2" range. That's like 99% of men probably, right? So when you're someone that's bigger than that, you're like, oh shit, like, you know, like I can't really make this guy a long-term champion unless he is exceptional, unless he is the Undertaker. And even Undertaker, think about it. Undertaker was never like a long-term champion. You know, Undertaker's title reigns are completely forgettable. You know, Undertaker, after he came back in like 2000, like, you know, which obviously is the best parts of his career, like 2000 all the way till now, he's been champion like 2 or 3 times. You know what I'm saying? 2 or 3 times in 30 years. John Cena has been champion like 3 times in 1 month. You know, depending like Randy Orton has been champion twice in one night. You know what I mean? So there's an element of that too, right? Like certain people are not fit to be the champion. And nowadays, the only way to actually be legit is to be the champion because there are no more Undertakers being created, right? There are no more like people that are just big deals by themselves, right? Even someone like Jake the Snake Roberts, right? He's like a big deal. But can you envision in 20 years in like some other AEW type company, can you envision like, I don't know, Dolph Ziggler coming out there and being like a manager? No, he's not big time enough. He's not like Tully Blanchard and Arn Anderson, like they're big deals, you know, like in their time, right? Dolph Ziggler isn't. So it's like, who's going to come out? There's a few, Cena, Orton, but a lot of these people are going to go on and do bigger and better things, right? Tully Blanchard is still out there signing autographs. Like, I remember my friend took me to see Ric Flair and Tully Blanchard was there and I'm like, who the fuck is this guy? I don't even know who he was, right? Who the hell is this Tully Blanchard guy, right? I knew the name, so I'm like, all right, he must be like one of the 4 horsemen, right? And I wanted like Flair to sign my picture and he was like, I can sign it too. And I'm like, I don't want to be rude, but I'm like, I don't really want you to sign my picture. Like, I don't know who you are. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm here to see Ric Flair. Nobody's here to see Tully Blanchard. Like, nobody knows who Tully Blanchard is, right? But at least but even so, there were people that had like little action figures of Tully. There's still a few, you know what I mean? Nobody's gonna go in 30 years to have their action figures signed by, I don't know, like Drew McIntyre or Keith Lee. Nobody's gonna care enough, you know? Like at most, like it'll be like the Hardy Boys. The Hardy Boys are the last people that will become like big deals, that are big by themselves. And Randy Orton. But I don't see Randy Orton going out there and signing autographs. Points I'm trying to make here is this, motherfuckers. Vince McMahon can only take you so far. At a certain point, you have to establish yourself. Like I just said, the Hardy Boys, right? Like they were pushed as what they were, right? But they got over themselves, right? They got over and they stayed interesting. Matt Hardy has had to reinvent himself 17,000 times. He's had to gain weight and lose weight and get beat and then like reinvent himself again, go to a different company, like get like 17 DUIs, reinvent himself again or whatever. I don't even know if he has any DUIs, but whatever. Like whatever issues he had, right? Same thing with Jeff Hardy. He's had to like continuously like put his body on the line, right? He's not one of these like soft dudes, but like that's him doing it. I'm sure Vince McMahon didn't say, all right, now you have to jump off a ladder again. He's like, I'm going to do it because that's how I roll, you know what I'm saying? But no one's doing that anymore. Like, maybe if Kalisto and Grand Metalik were like, yo, we're going to do this table match, and I'm going to dive head first from like the rafters into the table, then maybe he'd become the next Jeff Hardy. But they're not willing to do that. They're comfortable getting that paycheck. And Vince McMahon always takes the blame. Oh, Vince McMahon ruined Kalisto. Vince McMahon ruined like whatever El Samurai, whatever how he was called before. No, he didn't, man. These guys just aren't doing enough to become big deals, and that's the cold hard truth, motherfuckers.